I'm going to start this in maybe a very uncomfortable space. Not because I want to talk about the question I'm going to talk about, but just because I want to bring out a point. I had a shaila once from a lady who had got divorced. And the reason she got divorced was because she's a from lady. She had 5 kids or something. And the reason she got divorced was because she realized that she doesn't want to be married to a man, but rather, she has a preference of women. So the marriage fell apart, did not work. Now she's in a position which is a very difficult one. She says, I'm a from lady. I'm from. I do everything. I keep the whole thing. But what should I do? I have this feeling that makes me gravitate towards people of the same gender, and therefore I'm stuck. I don't know what to do. Now, I have no intention of talking about the same gender and that conversation, but rather about people having a feeling that really, really destroys everything in their way. And she essentially pressed self-destruct on her marriage and on her life and on her kids. And the reason for it is because of a feeling. What I want to do today, and maybe this can help her, and we can use this information to be able to help her, is study what we're going to call Torah HaNefesh, the Torah of the soul, which means to be able to recognize, to map out, to navigate the soul of who we are. Because psychologically, you can only help yourself if you know yourself. But if you don't know yourself, then you're pretty much stuck. Because the way we operate today is we say, I have a feeling. If I have a feeling that I'm a woman, or I have a feeling that I'm a man, you can't tell me I don't have that feeling. I do. Older generation generally says, are you out of your mind? Like, what? And the younger generation says, that's called shaming. You don't accept that I do have that feeling. So the younger generation, it's not necessarily younger or older, but the other person will say, I have that feeling, and therefore I must operate from that space. Because if I genuinely feel that I am a man or a woman, so I must operate from that space and activate my, right? If I'm really a woman in a man's body, so then I need to change who I am and be able to become that which I feel. And that's the way things operate today. But even if you don't actually relate to this, you'll see that there's many less exciting areas in life whereby we have feelings and we align ourselves with those feelings. Like if you walk home and you're mad and you lash out, and before you know it, the whole house is angry, and the only reason they're angry is because you were angry when you walked in. And so the question really becomes how to align ourselves with ourselves and to map out who we are. What's fascinating is that Hashem created us in His image. Because when He said, let's make man, He says, Nase Adam b'tzalmeinu kidmu seinu. And so in studying about ourselves and in knowing who we are, we actually also know who Hashem is. And so there's a mitzvah aseh deraisa called Yedias Hashem, to know God. But how do you get to know God? The only way to get to know God is by knowing you. Because since you are created in the image of Hashem, so your idiosyncrasies and interesting makeup actually helps you know God. And what would otherwise appear to be very Kabbalistic becomes very, very concrete when you say, I get it, that's how I operate too, and then you see it by Hashem. So we're going to study ourselves, and thereby study Hashem, and thereby be poised to navigate this very complex and intricate computer that's called me. Because otherwise, I don't know what to do. I feel a particular way. I feel like I'm this, and I can't escape it because I and my feeling are one. Where to begin is, there is a mimer in the Zohar. It's called Pasach Eiliho. Pasach Eiliho is printed in many, many Sidurim. In the Sfard Sidurim, they printed in the art scroll at the beginning of the Siddur, actually on like page 6. The Zachari Sidurim, they printed on Friday afternoon to say. And Eliyahu describes the soul. He describes Hashem, and he describes who we are in the same way. And he says as follows: Pasach Eliyahu v'amar antu chad v'lo v'chushbon. Hashem, you are one, but you can't be counted. Antu de'apikas asar tikunin. You extracted 10 garments. V'korinan lehoin asar sefiron. And you call them the 10 spheres. Anyone here ever heard of the 10 spheres? Heard of it. So the 10 spheres are the modus operandi of Hashem. Hashem creates through the 10 spheres. If you don't know the 10 spheres, you don't understand much of davening. Because much of davening is built around the 10 spheres. We keep on operating around the 10 spheres. For example, in davening we say, Lecha Hashem Agdula v'Gvura v'Tiferes v'Netzach v'Ahoid. What are we doing with that? Those are 7 of the 10 spheres. Those are the emotions. And all those things, those are all representation of the spheres. So what are the spheres? The spheres are 10 faculties by which Hashem creates the world. In order to understand what is by Hashem, you and I also have 10 faculties. You cannot escape the 10 faculties of your soul. You will always operate through them, no matter what. Once you identify them, you get to know yourself. So what are they? There's 3 intellectual and 7 emotional. So your intellect is divided into 3, and your emotions are divided into 7, for the most part. That's the general categorization, 3 and 7. What are the 3? Chachma, Bina, Das. Those are intellectual. The acronym for them is Chabad. Chabad is Chachma, Bina, Das. And that's how your intellect operates. So when you learn, there are 3 elements, 3 faculties of intellect. How does it work? When you're learning something, you don't understand anything, then suddenly, puff, the penny drops, right? You don't get it, you don't know what's going on here, I don't get it, suddenly the penny drops. That's called Chachma. If you leave and you go on to the next subject matter, then you will forget everything you learned. If you want to actually remember anything, you have to do step 2, which is called Bina. What's Bina? Bina means, they're all intellect, all 3. Bina means to להבין דבר מתוך דבר, to grasp one thing from another, right? That's why they say, for example, Bina Yeseira Nitna Be'isha. Women have extra Bina. So what does that mean? But on the other hand, Noshim Daiton Kalis. They don't have much Das, but they do have Bina. So the man is Chachma, and the woman is Bina. Chachma and Bina are a man and a woman. Because the man gives the little nakuda. How do you make a baby? A man comes over, gives a little something, and then he can walk away and we don't actually need him. And the woman hangs out for 9 months with a baby, produces the baby, and then is able to raise the baby and feed the baby and nurture the baby, and the father's like this figurehead in there. He's not really a part of it. But you can't make babies without fathers. So the father is like the chokhmah, the little nakuda, the little point that you give over, and the mother is the bina, which extrapolates one from the other. If you only do a chokhmah and a bina, what do you get? Nothing. Fathers and mothers don't produce anything unless they get together. And when they get together, what's it called? Das. Where is it called das? V'ha'adam yada et chava ishto. The euphemism for intimacy is called das. Adam knew Chava. He knew her. It means he was intimate with her. If you're not intimate with your intellect, you'll never understand. So you could learn something, but if it's not meaningful to you, you'll never really understand it. We learn best when the learning is relevant, right? When it has to have an effect on us and the chokhmah has to go down into bina, so then it's das. For example, if you're learning about military strategies as an intellectual exercise, that's one thing. But if you're actually going out to battle and you're walking into the battlefield now, the way you learn will be much more relevant. So that relevance that you're inserting into the learning, that's called das. So those are your three faculties of intellect. But we want to focus more on the emotional today. So what's the emotional? The emotional are kindness and its family, chesed. So love, kindness, all those things. Gvura is severity, which is, all the opposite emotions, withholding. And Tiferes is the blend of both together. So you have these intellect and emotions. Now, every one of us, all day, all night long, you're in the 10 faculties. Your mind is either working, your heart is feeling, you're involved in the 10 faculties. In addition to these 10 faculties, you have 3, let's call them garments of your soul. And you cannot escape these 3 garments. All the time, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, you're involved in the 10 faculties, which are enclosed in the 3 garments. But note that they are garments. What are the garments? Thought, speech, action. Now notice on yourself, you can never do anything other than thought, speech, and action. You're doing something, every so often you're doing things, right? You're speaking, and you're thinking. Are you your thought, your speech, or your action? Or are you just thinking, speaking, or acting? In other words, is it you, or is it your garment? What we want to do now is take these 10 faculties and the thought, speech, and action of who we are, and let's dissect it and understand what's me and what's not me, so that we can learn, who am I? It's fascinating that man can get sometimes to the moon, but the one place he can't get to is himself. People go to therapy for a lifetime, trying to find out, essentially, why do I behave this way? Who am I? And in Hasidus, what we're going to do is learn and study and understand the depth. It's like plummeting the depth of who we are. In order to do so, we're creating a map. So the map is going to be 4 worlds. Hashem has 4 worlds, and all of us are divided into 4 worlds. You live all the time, constantly in 4 worlds. What are the 4 worlds? From bottom to top, action is the bottom world. Speech is the second to the bottom. Thought, 1 up. What's above thought? Intellect and emotions. Now let's understand why that is. So, the Baal Tanya in the Tanya says that thought, speech, and action are garments of the soul. But intellect and emotions are not garments of the soul, they are you. Here's why. Are you identified with what you do? Is it possible for you to do something that's actually not you? Can you?
Yes.
For example, can you give a gift to someone, a gift of love, if you don't actually love them? Can a man give a woman a beautiful diamond ring, which is a gift of love, without actually loving her? It's possible, yeah? Let's move 1 world up. the world of speech. Can you say, I love you, if you don't love someone? You probably could. How about one higher? Can you think you love someone if you don't actually love them? Yeah. You ever seen people fall out of love and they'll say, actually, I never loved you. So why'd you marry me? The answer is, I thought I loved you. You see the terminology? I thought I loved you. Look at the words. I thought means I was in the world of thought, and I thought that I loved you is the higher world of emotions. So the thought is a garment. Why is it a garment? Because people walk around with garments all the time. We don't walk out without garments. And yet the garment is not you. I'm wearing a jacket and I'm wearing a shirt. So I always wear a jacket and a shirt. Well, I could wear something else on it, but it's going to be the same idea. Something to cover me and to identify me. Your clothing express you. Clothing in Hebrew is called beged. Beged in English means boged. Maze boged. Traitor. Betray. Clothing actually betray you. Because you could wear something that's not you. You could express yourself through clothing. You could also express not yourself through clothing. You could wear one thing and not be that. You could wear a beautiful suit and you're actually a lowlife, or the opposite. So the clothing don't actually express you, but they are garments. All of us dress up every single day. The same way you dress up in your clothing, you dress up in 3 garments: thought, speech, action. You put them on, you wear them, and you decide, what am I wearing today? Be very, very careful to know that they're garments and they're not you. Because just because you say you love someone doesn't mean you actually love them. Just because you think you do doesn't mean that you actually do. Although, can you see how they're higher worlds? Action is a very external world. Speech is a little more internal. And thought is very internal. When you think you love someone, why would you think you love someone if you don't? They don't know what you're thinking. Speech is where they get to know. Thought they don't get to know. So thought is an internal world. But nonetheless, it's an expression, right? It's a garment of the soul. Now, how about the world of understanding? Let's take the intellect. Can you understand? Can you say 1 + 1 = 3? Can you say it? I just did. Can you think it? Can you think I think I understand it. I think 1 + 1 = 3. Can you think 1 + 1 = 3? Yeah. Can you understand 1 + 1 = 3? No. Why? Because it doesn't. So, if you understand 1 + 1 = 3, the correct terminology will be, I think I understand that 1 + 1 = 3. But if you actually understood it, you would say 1 + 1 = 2, not 3. So you see how understanding is truth. But thinking is a garment of the soul. So thought, speech, action, garments. Put them on, take them off. True, you have to wear something, but it's a garment. Intellect and emotions, that's you. So I can do an act of love without loving. I can say I love you without necessarily loving. I can think I love you, but I can't love you without loving you. Because if I love you, that means I love you, right? So in Tanya, he says, thought, speech, and action are levushim, are garments. But intellect and emotions are not garments. They are you. Here's the problem. you have no access to your intellect and your emotions without thought, speech, and action. Because what are you meant to do with it? If I have a feeling, the only way for me to access that feeling is through thinking about it. So I think about my feeling, and then the feeling comes out. This is why it's 4 worlds. We got it? 4 worlds are, the external world is called Olam HaAsiya, the world of action. Rise one above, Olam HaYetzira, that's the world of speech. Rise one above, Olam HaBriya, the world of creation, that's thought, right? Now you want to rise one above, and that's the world of Atzilus. That's the world of Hashem himself. That's the world of who you are. It's not a garment. If that's the case, then if I think something, am I able to change how I think? Well, let's start on the bottom actually. If I have an action that I do and I want to change the action, is it easy to change an action? Yeah? Not always. It could be very difficult. Addictions are generally habits of doing things. They're called triggers. It means when I walk past this, or when I sit, if I'm sitting at night and I walk past that place and I see da-da-da-da-dum, then my addiction is triggered and now suddenly I can't do anything about it. Or how about when you walk past a delicious Danish, a chocolate cake. Don't eat it. Why are you eating it? It's the world of action, nothing else. But action is not so easy, and it's so simple. Just don't do it. Good luck, right?
It's
because
the world of feeling, because it makes me feel good if I eat it.
Let's understand. Intellect and emotions occupy every one of the 4 worlds. The world of action is about intellect and emotions. Of course, eating a Danish is a feeling in the world of action, right? It's much better to think about eating a Danish than to eat it. So you're in the world of action. The world of action is intellect and emotions in the world of action. The world of speech. I can't forget, once there was a guy down here and he had a very difficult relationship with his father. And he was standing by the beam after davening, and he started to say, you know, my father was this and this, and he's told me this, and he started to tell a story about his father. And I seized the moment, I walked over to the guy, and I said to him, you know, that I don't know what you're about to say, but it sounds like, I think I have a hunch what you're about to say is Lashon Hara about your father. I think so. And you know that if you don't say it right now, then you're literally bringing Hashem into the world. Because you're doing the most marvelous act right now. You have such a desire to go say that about your father, that if you withhold your desire, that's godly. That'll be an absolutely divine act, and you'll be bringing Hashem into the world. He listened, and he says, okay, I'm not saying it. And then he tells me, you know how hard this is? I'm itching to say it, like I'm dying to say this. And he was sitting over there and he's like, wow, it's absolute self-sacrifice. It's Mesiras Nefesh right now that I'm doing to not say this. And it was incredible. He did not say it. At least not in the next while I was present there. And it was mind-blowing. But you see how the world of speech is very, very, very difficult. To stop you, to hold your speech and not say that Lashon Hara is a real challenge. It could be Mesiras Nefesh. It borders on self-sacrifice. But it's just emotions in the world of speech. Now to think and not to think something, whew, that's difficult. Because when I'm thinking, like negative thinking, it's so compelling. It's such fun. And nobody else is listening. So I might as well, I'm going to kill myself and like berate myself and put myself down and feel so good about it. I knew it. I knew it was going to fail. I just knew it. I'm always right about this. That I always mess up. I know it. And that's a feeling also in the world of thought. It's very, very difficult to control your thoughts and to dictate to your thoughts how to think. To wake up in the morning and to make a decision, I'm going to think positively, and actually hold to that thought is a challenge. But all these are garments. And even though they're difficult to change, they are changeable. So it gets increasingly, we increase the difficulty as we rise from one world to the next. The world of action is a lot easier to change than the world of speech, which is a lot easier than the world of thought, and that's the most difficult. But how you feel, that's difficult. That's impossible to change. So in the Tanya, he says, thought, speech, and action are garments. Intellect and emotions themselves are you. What you understand is what you are. What you feel is what you are. So if I feel a particular way, I don't know how to change that. And that's me. So I can change the way I think about it. Okay, if you don't love someone, that's great. Who says you have to tell them something nasty? Don't be nasty. Don't say it. Don't even think it. Because what matters is thought, speech, and action, not intellect and emotions. Intellect and emotions control it. So far we're good? Makes sense or not? Says the Baal Tanya. That's it. In Tanya I said that. Now he says, I want to tell you something else. I want to explain what Eliyahu was saying and go deeper into the soul. Because if we go deep, deep, deep into the soul, we'll discover that intellect and emotion themselves actually can be changed and deactivated and completely transformed to a different direction. And if you can master your intellect and emotions, you become in control of you. But unlike thought, speech, and action, which are garments, seichel and midas, intellect and emotions, are not levushim. It's very, very, very difficult because you identify yourself with them. So we talk a lot about this here, and let's take the example, right? I am angry. When you say, I am angry, what you should not do, right? We talk about the 10-10 rule. You know the 10-10 rule? Ask yourself a question when you're angry. That which I'm angry about, will it make a difference in 10 minutes, in 10 days, in 10 months? If it won't, control, deep breath, wait 10 seconds, wait 10 minutes, and then respond and see how the difference of responses. Because you want to be able to control your own self, right? Emotions can be regulated. But if you're angry, you have to ask yourself the question, what is it about this anger? Am I angry? Is it ever correct to say, I am angry? No, why not?
I am feeling angry.
What's the difference between I am angry versus I am feeling angry?
It's identifying with that emotion and internalizing it and becoming it.
There you go. If you say I am angry, that means that's true. I am angry. The emotion and me have become one. Yes. Because emotions are very much part of you, unlike thought, speech, and action, which are not. Emotions are. But if you learn to treat intellect and emotions as garments also, then you seize control of them. Eliyahu Hanavi in Pasach Eliyahu has a different word for the word garments. He says, Antu de'apikas asar tikunin. What are tikunin? Onkelos translates the pasuk, Lo yilbash gever simlas isha. A man should not wear the clothing of a woman. He says, Lo yisakin gever betikuni itza. A man should not wear clothing of a woman. He uses the word yitakin. Tikunin. What?
Correction?
Not corrections. Tikunin are more like, we're going to find the right word for it, decorations. So look at yourself and ask yourself the question. Are there clothing that you feel, physical clothing, you feel more closely identified with, of your own clothing? What clothing would that be? Do people identify with their shirts? Do people identify with, with outfits and that they wear, with dresses, with suits? Do they? To some degree. What item of clothing would you say people are most identified with? That you mamish feel attached to that? Anything?
A woman asked me, out of the blue, secular Jewish woman, she said, "Can I ask you something?" I'm like, "Yeah." She's like, "Why the skirt?" And she's wearing slacks.
Right.
And I'm like, "Oh boy, I better think about this." And I didn't want to go into a whole Torah. I said, "You know why? Because it's my identity as a woman to wear
Right.
a skirt." That's what I told her.
Right. But that's still garments.
Right.
That's levushim. You know what tikkunim are? What's the difference, to a woman certainly, between clothing and jewelry? Is there more of an identity with jewelry? Now, personally, I don't understand this.
Yes.
But tikkunim are decoration, they're jewelry. So, to a man, a Rolex watch. If you wear a Rolex watch, a Rolex is an identity. It's not. It's an adornment, right? I think a phone maybe is also that. I'm not sure. Like you don't go without it. You identify it. It's part of who you are. Maybe a car to some people. I don't know. Here's the thing. Some clothing are external clothing. Of course, you won't go without the clothing, but it's clothing. And then there's tikkunin, which is it's not clothing. It's my identity. I can't be without that. That's me. So jewelry is often, right? The second gev of tikkunin says the jewelry. The jewelry, if it's in a real way, I'm saying a real expensive item of jewelry that you handpicked and you decided yourself on it becomes very much connected to you. Thought, speech, and action are clothing. Intellect and emotions are like your jewelry. If you think about it that way, they are tikkunin.
So for a man, it would be a kippah or tzitzis?
You mean because he wouldn't ever take it off and whatever? Maybe. Yeah. Possible, but he wouldn't take off the rest of the clothing either. Like.
Right, but you wouldn't go out without it on.
Right. So I'm not sure if it's. I don't know if a man. I mean, maybe you do identify yourself as a young, maybe. Yeah. So. So intellect and emotions, if we want to change them, we actually could. And knowing that is the key. When you feel a particular way, what you want to do is notice how this too is a garment. And so it's a training of being able to say to myself, it's not what I am, ever. Whether it's an exciting feeling or an anxious feeling, both of them, no matter what feeling it is, it's just a feeling. The goal of life is to be mellow. I'm mellow, I'm just me. When I say I feel angry, the question is, who's the I that feels the anger? If I am angry, then me and the anger are one. Then I'm not able to escape the anger. But if I say I feel angry, then what I have now is a feeling. And feelings, once you say that word, you can actually change it. Now the truth is, it applies to understanding also, but we don't have an English term for that. Because I am angry versus I feel angry, you can very clearly discern the difference. But I don't understand how you see the difference between the word I understand. But it's the same thing. When I understand, it's a perspective that I have. It's my perspective. And even if it's 100% correct, my perspective, it's just a perspective. And there's another perspective on it. Right? If I'm looking at this thing, if I'm a plumber, then I'm going to look at this room and I'm going to see the room and I'm going to just see the pipes and the whatever. And I'm going to say, why did you build it this way? But if I'm an interior decorator, I have a whole different way of why it's important to build a room a particular way. I don't really care about the plumbing. It's a technicality to me. So who's right? You're right. I'm right. Everybody's right. It's all right. Just different ways of looking at things. What we want to do is be able to discover the I behind the understand and behind the anger. Because once you activate the I That's where freedom lies. People identify themselves with feelings for the rest of their lives. This lady, you know, I said to her, like, first of all, people need empathy, right? We all do it. We need empathy. It means, like, don't tell me I don't feel this. If I feel something, just let's get on the same page. That's what I feel, and it's okay to feel that. Free. Now what? It's one of the biggest things we have is, I was talking to this bacher in yeshiva. So he told me, he said, there's one bacher in yeshiva, another bacher that, and he revealed, it was such a powerful revelation. He said to me, I can't stand him. I hate this bacher. And I can't be in yeshiva because this other boy is there. I don't know what to do. And I don't want him. He says, and if you would know who the other boy was, I don't know, I wouldn't know where to bury myself. So I told the kid, I said, try me. You want to know why? Because you think what you're about to tell me is shameful, and I'm going to shame you for it. I got some news for you. I got so many problems myself. I got so many idiosyncrasies in my own nature that if I were to shame you, I would first do it to myself. We all have an animal soul. We all have a wackiness to ourselves. Just a question of how wacky you are, this way, that way. But when someone says to you they're crazy and they're wacky and they have a feeling like that, don't shame them just because you don't have that particular feeling. Like I feel like a woman. You low life. What? You feel like a woman? You feel like a whatever? No. Why would you do that? Why? It's a feeling that they have, and Hashem gave us feelings to be able to overcome, to discover the deeper self. So the kid says, okay, fine. The person I have is related to me. The other boy. Who is he? He's my brother. And why do you hate him? Why do you think? It's called sibling rivalry. And that was such a powerful revelation. So I told him, I said, that's beautiful. Wow. It's really special. First of all, it's special that you said it, right? Because now it's on the table. It's on the cards. It's not something you're running away from. You said, I feel that I hate my brother. And he says, I see other brothers together and they love each other. And I wish I could love my brother, but I can't stand him. I literally can't be in yeshiva when he's around. I can't be there. And the answer is that there were brothers in the Torah who hated each other also. They really hated each other. They sold their brother. That's how bad it was. And what he meant to do with that? Well, when Yosef had the power back and he seized the power, he looked and he says, I now have the power to do revenge. And they expected revenge. What did Yosef say? Every time I feel the need for revenge in my heart, I'm going to do the exact opposite. I'm going to sustain you. I'm going to give you money. I'm going to give you everything you need. I'm going to give you all the best. Why? Because I have a relationship with Hashem and I realize it's all from God. In other words, if I have a feeling of sinas chinam back to you, that's opportunity. Opportunity for what? Opportunity to serve Hashem. If you didn't have a feeling of sibling rivalry, then you wouldn't have a space to bring Hashem into, because you feel connected to Hashem. But if you feel very jealous of your sibling, you know what that is? Awesome. Because how do you think you serve Hashem if not when you don't want to? So if you have a feeling of anger, what you want to do is go beyond the feeling. I'm not jealous of my brother. That's the problem with the way we speak. What you're saying is, I have a feeling of jealousy towards my brother. You see what just happened? I and the feeling are separate. But you say, but I really, really feel jealous. Okay, don't run away from that feeling. When you allow the feeling to be, you sit there and you say, yeah, so there's a feeling and I accept you. Accept that you're a feeling. Who gave me this feeling? Hashem gives you everything, including the jealousy feeling. Hashem gave it to me. Why did Hashem give it to me? Here's where the difference comes in. If you identify yourself with the feeling and you become the feeling, then you can't control it. But if you realize Hashem's purpose is called iskafia. Iskafia means to push against negative feelings. So I have a feeling of jealousy. What does the feeling of jealousy mean? It's an opportunity for me to serve Hashem more. So you start working on it slowly. I feel the jealousy and you accept it and you watch and you look at yourself from outside, because now you know that even though in Tanya it says that feelings are you, that's only relative to thought, speech and action. But relative to a deeper side of who you are, they're jewelry, but they're not you. So you look at yourself and you feel jealousy. You ever look at someone else? When your child tells you that they're jealous, what do? You become a mommy or tati and you start speaking to them about what you should do about it. Well, do that to yourself by separating yourself from the emotion. And that's the power of noticing that feelings themselves are clothing, not you. So now you say, what's going to happen? Well, if someone empathizes with you, right? If you tell your parents, or if you tell your Rebbe, or your whoever it is that you're talking to, that you have a feeling, this feeling, what's going to happen to you afterwards? You know how you're free? I let it out. I told you my feeling. And then you told me it's okay. It's okay to have that feeling. And now what should we do about it? We should act, speak, and think good to the other person even when we feel negative. And we should allow the levushim, I'm going to put on garments to betray me. It's not the real me. But I'm going to allow my garments to go that direction so that, like the Rambam says, achar hamaisim nimshachim alavavas. Actions lead you and the heart follows the actions. So when you do nice things to your sibling, you'll get great things happening behind the scenes, behind you. So back to this lady. So I told her, okay, so you have a feeling that you're that you want to marry a woman. But it's a feeling, right? So if it's a feeling, now I can deal with it, right? Chess pieces are pieces you can move around because you see them. They're pieces on the board, so you can move them the way you want. But feelings, if they're me, I can't move them around. And that's the problem. I identify myself with the feeling. If it's me, I can't move anything around me. But you know that you have 10 chess pieces inside you. They're called intellect and emotion, the faculties of your soul. And they're very difficult to move, but they're movable. So now, I have a feeling that I feel that I want to marry a woman, she says, right? So, okay, you have a feeling. And I asked her a question. I said, it was interesting, in the middle of the conversation, she said, first of all, you accept the feeling without any shame. It's okay to feel that. Even if you're from, it's fine to feel that. It is fine to feel that, right? Does Torah ever say you're not allowed to feel that? No. Torah doesn't talk about feelings. It says you can't act on it, yes, but it doesn't say you can't feel it, right? In fact, to feel it is a good thing because it's how you bring Hashem down. So then in the middle, she says, my husband was pretty much like he was so womanly. Like, I had to be like his mother. He was like, all the time he had these feelings and he had this thing and whatever, and I don't know, like, I had to regulate his emotions all the time. And I couldn't do it. And when I have another lady, it's a different world because she's strong and she understands me and she regulates my emotions. And so when she said that, I'm like, oh, that's interesting. So basically, somehow you're attracted to men who are very gentle men, and therefore they're women, actually, in their expression of being. And what you're looking for in a woman is someone who understands you, and then she gets who you are, and then that's like a man to you. So really what you want is a real man, not a woman. So how do you get that? Maybe you should try something else. Maybe you should try the man you marry instead of being his mother, maybe give him respect all the time. So when he comes to you and he has all feelings, doesn't know what to do, where to go, and he's lost in himself, say, I respect that whatever you decide is going to work. And I know you're going to figure it out. And give him the power, right? And you may have to work hard to build him because he's fragile. So you're building him into a respectful individual. Again, I'm not talking about the whole detail of that, just pointing out this point. That once you understand that who says that I actually want to marry a woman, is that a fact or is it a feeling? If it's a feeling, feelings, if you listen to a person, you understand what they say, you'll see they can move it around. She was like, she's listening to the conversation, I don't know what, and she's like, yeah, yes. She's like, yeah, that would feel great. And her feelings suddenly changed. She's like, I would love to be married to a man that I actually respected. And she's like, it's interesting because I've always thought that it's a woman that I want. And now I realize it's a little bit different. All feelings are like that. Feelings can be changed, can be maneuvered, and can be played with. And so can intellect. By Hashem, we call these four worlds Atzilus, Bria, Yetzira, Asiya. If you look at Pirkei Avos, the last Mishnah in Pirkei Avos, all the way at the end, Kol hanikra b'shmi v'lichvoidi brasi v'tzarti v'afasisi. Those are the four worlds. Lichvoidi is Atzilus, brasi v'tzarti v'afasisi. I created it, I formed it, and I made it. The way Hashem designed this world, we're created in His image. There's 10 spheres and there's 4 worlds. The 10 spheres exist in each one of the 4 worlds. 10 spheres are intellect and emotions. The intellect and emotions exist on 4 planes. The world of action, the world of speech, the world of thought, and the actual world of intellect and emotions. What happens to us is we must understand the map and the navigation of our souls. To know, what am I doing right now? You'll always be doing one of these things. You're either thinking, speaking, or acting. Those are garments. What are you thinking, speaking, or acting? It's always going to be one of the 10 faculties. Always. Either intellect or emotions. That's where you are. You can't escape that. Once you know that, and you say, I don't know, all the time I'm thinking that I feel this. But once you know that the feeling itself and the intellect is a piece, it's a tool, it's not you, then you train yourself to, again, it's in the intellect, it's the same thing. I don't understand this. My perspective is currently this and this and this. That's my perspective, right? Who's the true I? The I is a divine being inside you. By a Jew, you learn a very simple message. Me and God are one. God is taking care of you all the time. There's nothing besides Hashem. You can close your eyes and you can rest assured Hashem is right there. Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. That's the true I. Everything else is a feeling which is not true. It's just because Hashem wants you to work it through in this world. So any feeling of anxiety or excitement, whatever the feeling is a feeling from Hashem meant to allow you to run this world and to function and to operate in this world. When you discover the true you, so when you say I'm feeling anxious, and who says it's okay? Maybe it's not okay. I don't know, maybe it is, maybe it isn't, but I'll tell you what's happening right now. Hashem is protecting you. Hashem is right behind the scenes. Hashem is with you in this very moment. And once you start getting it, that Hashem is in front of me, between me and Hashem, there's my actions, my speech, my thought, my intellect, my emotions. Just notice them, you'll find Hashem every time. And suddenly you'll see that when a boy tells you he's jealous, or when you're jealous, you'll be like, okay, אני לא מתפעל. I'm not getting excited over it. It's just a little blockage between you and Hashem. So what? Blockages are okay. Behind that lies Hashem. And that's the power of the four worlds and recognizing the map of who we are and understanding what lies behind us. What lies behind us is a pristine, beautiful self. So just look at yourself every time. Look at how crazy we are. It's great. It's such fun when you identify, I'm just being crazy. Okay. Yeah, fine. I'm feeling that. And then you'll see that behind it is Hashem. And it's always good. It's always wonderful, every space you are. But we need to know our souls.